What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So I posted about it in my community chat the other day. The brother LB did a live stream talking about it. So the Washington Wizards' Russell Westbrook had a very dominant triple double the other day against the Indiana Pacers. He had 34 points, 14 rebounds, and 21 assists. And it came in a 132 to 124 victory over the Pacers. And for the season, Russell Westbrook is averaging a triple double. Now, his season is belying the skeptics, including myself, who thought that Russell Westbrook was pretty much done. It is also only the third time in NBA history that players had at least 30 points, 10 rebounds, and 20 assists in a game, the others being Oscar Robertson and Magic Johnson. Now, Stephen A. Smith, when asked about the performance, said it was a dominant performance. Also during the performance, Russell Westbrook broke the franchise record for most triple doubles with the Wizards, formerly the Bullets, 16 of them now. But look, Stephen A. Smith said he doesn't give a damn about this shit. You know, he said he doesn't care about a player putting up gaudy numbers if they have not won a championship. He doesn't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't impress him about a guy putting up all these numbers, doing all these things if they don't have the NBA hardware. It just doesn't mean a damn thing to him anymore. Okay, and he also talked about how Westbrook has had a lot of help over the years, so there's no excuses. And he also says that Westbrook should have developed his 3-point shot. And he compared him to Curry and Lillard and Durant and Harden, and saying that that's why he's never won a championship because he can't shoot threes. Well, let me first. This is how I'm going to do it. Let me first address these points. Um, why doesn't Stephen A. Smith keep the same energy for, say, James Harden? Because he always praises James Harden's numbers, but where are the championships? Now, this year, he may win a championship playing on a super team, something Russell Westbrook never had the pleasure of doing. And don't tell me this bullshit about the old OKC team, because that was not a fucking super team. Because first of all, James Harden was not James Harden back then. He was not the same player. That's like saying Kawhi Leonard was Kawhi Leonard back in 2011. He was not the same fucking player. Okay, but if you want to say Russ has had help, yeah, he's played with an earlier version of James Harden. He's played with Durant. He's played with Paul George. He's played with James Harden, but that's also on James Harden that he didn't get it done correct. And he's playing with Bradley Beal. But I would argue that James Harden has had even more help. He's played with Russell Westbrook when he was an established star. He played with Durant when he was an established star. Okay. Then he goes to Houston. He's played with Dwight Howard when he was at the tail end of his dominant period. Okay. So he played with Dwight Howard. That didn't work. He played with Carmelo Anthony. Everybody said he was washed up, and we see what he's doing now. He's played with Chris Paul. He played on a team that set the franchise record for most wins, 65 wins in 2018. A team that should have beaten the Warriors, and somehow, in some way, they choked and didn't get it done. And he's played with Russell Westbrook. Now he's playing with Kevin Durant again, and Kyrie Irving, and now just throw in Blake Griffin, even though they diminished Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. I just get irritated by Stephen A. Smith. Okay, look, am I saying Russ is up there with the elite, top 10, top 15, or top 20? No, no. Where Russ belongs in the hierarchy is with guys like George Gervin, Adrian Dantley, maybe Alex English, um, Dominique Wilkins. He's going to be in that pantheon. Guys who put up great numbers but were unable to win championships. Okay, some of them, a lot of them, are known for their numbers, and they're in the Hall of Fame because of their dominant individual statistics. But they weren't able to win championships. Now, Russell Westbrook's wife took to Twitter and said, I think it was to Twitter. I know she went on social media, and she said that she's tired of people criticizing her husband to the degree, this narrative. And Russ went on, when asked about it, and said that he doesn't talk shit. He doesn't really go out there and speak much. Um, but he's tired himself of people creating this narrative and running away with it and just going bullshit bananas with it. That he's a loser. Okay? Now, this is the one statement that he said that I think people are going to take out of context. He said a championship will not define my life. Okay? Some people are wired differently. That's the only way I can say it. Some people are wired differently. Some people look at a championship as everything. It validates them. I'm going to tell you a story about Michael Jordan. It tells you his mindset. Jordan, I think, was playing, I don't know, some type of game. I don't know, like throwing I think it was against Horace Grant. And it could have been like throwing pennies in a bucket or some shit. I don't know. It was something really meaningless. And Jordan won. And the bet was for $5. And Horace Grant blew him off at first, but Jordan demanded the $5 bill. I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but then Jordan, when he gave Jordan the $5 bill, Jordan looked at that $5 bill and said, "This is my trophy for winning. This validates me being a winner." And some people just look at things totally different. Some people, how can I explain this? People like Kobe, Jordan, Bill Russell, they're driven to win championships. They're driven to be the best because to them, a championship is everything in sports. They're driven like that. Russell Westbrook, I believe he wants to win a championship, but what he's saying is it's not the number one primary goal in my life. Russell Westbrook seems to be more interested, first of all, in his family, his marriage, his philanthropy, which the media never talks about. They love to talk about, LeBron James's philanthropy, but they never talk about Russell Westbrook and his philanthropy, how much money he donates to causes and to charities and organizations, how much money he gives his community, and they don't talk about his social activism. As a matter of fact, when they did choose to talk about his social activism, they chastised him for not what was it for wearing a mask at a rally, but not at a party. To make him seem whatever. I do think that he's very disrespected But I do think that his comment of a championship doesn't define me is going to be taken by those who don't like him, and they're going to say that, see, this proves you that he's not a winner. Now, I want to say this though. This thing about where Russell Westbrook goes, he never wins. That's bullshit. Look, the Wizards right now, I think, are 17 and 28, 17 and 29. They have an outside shot of making the playoffs, but most likely they're going to fall short. But you know what? Ever since John Wall's been hurt, the Wizards have been trash. Okay, they've been trash. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the year before last, or was it last year, they won 20 something games. Bradley Beal was averaging 30 points a game. Nobody gave a fuck about Bradley Beal. He wasn't even an all star. Bradley Beal was the first player in NBA history to average 30 points a game and not be an all star. Why? Because nobody gave a fuck about the Wizards until Russell Westbrook got there. Then all of a sudden, the expectations were that's how they set them up to fail, to be honest with you. They always do this with Russ. You look at that roster and look at the fucking Nets roster. You look at the Wizards roster and you look at the Celtics roster. You look at the Wizards roster and go look at the Heat roster now. You look at the Wizards roster and go look at the Pacers roster, even though they beat them. You look at whoever. Most of the teams in the Eastern Conference, as bad as it is compared to the West, they still have more talent than the Wizards. So in order for the Wizards to win games, Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal have to put up dominant performances because defensively, they're not very good. And let's be honest too, okay? When are you motherfuckers going to start putting more of this shit on the coaching? Because I don't get it. Like, if I'm not mistaken, Scott Brooks been there for a while. And what has that shown? What has he shown for it? Nothing. And like I said, ever since John Wall went down, the Wizards haven't been shit. But now all of a sudden Russell Westbrook's there, and now everybody want to follow how many games they lose. Yeah, that's why I think people hate the motherfucker, and it's overkill. And people just repeat the same fucking narrative that they put out there in the media. How about the fact that when Durant left, everybody thought the Thunder were not going to make the playoffs. They thought the Thunder were not going to make the playoffs, and they did. Until Paul George got hurt in 2018, 2019, I think it was. I think it was that year. I can't remember what season it was. Yeah, 2018, 2019. The Thunder were third in the Western Conference, third. Now, I didn't think they were going to stay there, but they were third. But they just had they have this thing in the media. They just got to shit on this dude all the time. And don't get me wrong, I understand the criticisms. He turns the ball over a lot. He makes bad decisions late in the game at times. I don't critique any of that. He's not a top 20 or even maybe even top 30 all time player. But to say he sucks, I don't know, man. You know, when Paul George got to OKC and Russ had him looking like an MVP candidate, what did they say? Well, Paul needs more help scoring. Russ can't score anymore. He's only averaging 20, 21 points a game. And when Paul George got hurt and Russ had to start scoring again, oh, he shoots too much. I'm like, this motherfucker can't win with these motherfuckers. He cannot win. And then last year, when he took out the main thing people said about him, his inefficiency, he stopped shooting threes. He basically became a fucking point center. Everybody talking about this year and how Zion Williamson scoring so many points in the paint, 20 points in the paint. Didn't Russell Westbrook average like 21 points in the paint last year as a 6'3" guard? And nobody was oohing and on about that. Why? Because it's Russell Westbrook. There was a stretch from Russ before the game, before they shut down because of what happened, right? Russ was averaging 33 points a game from December until March. He was averaging 33 points a game. In that stretch, he was I think leading the NBA in scoring in that stretch. But nobody cares because it's Russell Westbrook. And last but not least, let me say this point about three-point shooting. Okay. He talks about how Russell's only a 30% three-point shooter. Everybody's not going to be a three-point shooter. They're just not. Okay. They're just not going to be a good three-point shooter. Charles Barkley tried. He was horrible for the most part. Michael Jordan won 6 NBA championships, but was only a 32.7% career three-point shooter. That's a little misleading, but 32.7. Kobe Bryant won 5 NBA championships, and he was a career 32.9% three-point shooter for his career. I don't think three-point shot held them back. Why? Because they had other aspects of their games. Multifaceted, you know what I'm saying? One of the problems now is that there's such an overemphasis of the three-point shot that I would even say that shot holds you back. Because if it wasn't for the fact that Curry played on such great teams, would he really be a champion? Because Lillard's not a champion. Lillard can shoot from deeper than anybody, other than Curry. And what does that got him? I just think that this three-point shot is getting to the point where it's ruining the NBA. I think people put way too much stock in that shit. And at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? That's all I got to say about it, man. Russ is a good dude. I understand the criticism as a basketball player, but I do think it's overkill. Every time Russell Westbrook plays bad, he gets criticized, and aptly so. But when he has a great performance, he still gets criticized, and that's unfair. That's unfair, okay? To me, then that's when it's getting overkill. And you're creating a narrative to destroy him. And one last thing I want to say, too. And black people, stop doing this, okay? I'm not trying to make this race specific, but stop doing this. Stop feeding into this bullshit. Whenever Russell Westbrook has a triple-double, and it's always you motherfuckers, okay? Stop sitting there saying shit like he's stat padding or he's stealing rebounds. Stealing rebounds? Shut the fuck up. You know how stupid you sound when you say that shit? He's stealing rebounds. But meanwhile, Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic frequently stat pad, if you want to call it that. If stat padding is seeing that you got 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists, and you stay in the game to get those achievements, then that's stat padding. Even though the game is decided. That's stat padding. But you guys don't say that. He's playing hard and he just ends up. Man, shut up, man.